Hey, Brian Davis races, and you can to do to you. I think yeah, you can. You can race. So today we are in beautiful West Bend, Wisconsin,
Watch out, they're coming.
and the 4-5 group is racing right now. Main field right here, about to overtake some lap riders. Cool. We got some rain, as you can see, but based on our deep analysis of radar, which I don't know if you know this, but fun fact, every cyclist is in fact an amateur meteorologist. So we have been checking WeatherBug, Dark Sky, weather.com, everything you can think of to see if we are going to get a gap in the weather, and I am placing my bets that we are going to get a gap in the rain and we're going to end up having fairly dry roads. Now I will say this about this rain versus yesterday's rain. Yesterday's rain, the rain started minutes before our course, or before our race, and that made me extra nervous because if you drive a car, hopefully you know this, but anytime it rains, in the beginning of the rain, it's much more slippery than later because the oil and dirt from cars has not washed off the street yet. But after it's rained for some amount of time, the oil, dirt washes off the street, and there's actually a fair amount of grip even on wet streets. So, of course, you want to watch paint, manhole covers, tar strips, all that stuff, extra slippery. But I feel much better about today. And we changed our tactic. I asked Andy to be the team boss today and tell me to
Stay at the front.
work it, not be such a chicken.
Nope.
So
Get
that's
to the
my
front.
plan. Get to the
and
front, don't
give
be
it.
a chicken. And, oh, good news! I found out tomorrow actually starts old man category, so I can leave these young folk and go race with my old folk starting as early as tomorrow. So that is good news. Tomorrow's actually going to be 40 and 50 categories together. So it'll be a big field. Hello. All right, that's all I have for you today. Let's go race bikes! Yes, let's do that. Let's go race bikes. Brian Davis races, and you can too. Thanks for checking out the channel. #RaceFam. Before we get started today, I would like to ask very specifically for you to subscribe to the channel. So it really helps me just understand that people watch these things, and then I can put a little extra time and effort into making these things happen. Also, if you see me at the races and would like a t-shirt, find me. I have t-shirts with me while supplies last. I'm not charging for the t-shirts. I just ask that you wear them somewhere bike related and send me a photo of it so I can put you in the videos like this. You too can be just like James Frost right here in this photo with him and Brian Davis Race's t-shirt and his sweet Cannondale repping the channel. So if you catch me at the race, let me know. And if I have t-shirts left over after this week, I will post a very particular way to get a t-shirt from me if in the comments. So the best way to do that is leave a comment. And not everyone will get it because I don't have that many t-shirts and they do cost me money. So anyway, that's a whole nother story. So thanks for supporting the channel. Blah, blah, blah. Now, tire pressure. Yesterday I raced in the rain and I raced like a scared little kitten. So scared of the crashing. And part of that was I was scared like a little baby, and the other part of it is I was over pressured on my tires. I just have a hard time convincing myself to drop the tire pressure. So came up with an awesome little hack today because my teammate Brent does a great job of coaching me into getting the right tire pressure. I just consistently don't believe him. So today I had Brent service my tires. He asked to do that, and I thought, that's a great idea. Yeah, you can do it. So he put the tire in. I did not look at the gauge. I did not ask him. I said, I don't want to know anything about the tire pressure until after this race. So I raced the race, and I have to say, I felt great today. The course was not wet. There were a couple of sections that were wet in the beginning. They did dry out eventually, but I went right through some of them in the beginning and was not nearly as nervous as I was the day before. And even taking some of these they're slow turns, but they're pretty sharp. I felt great. There's one really high-speed downhill turn that you'll see here in a second. Felt great. So in the end, I asked Brent, what did you put in there? Now, I am running Bontrager tubeless rim brake, whatever, on GP 5000 tubeless ready tires. and he put 72 in the front and 75 in the rear. And I know that is a crazy low amount for a lot of people to believe, but that's absolutely what he did, and I have to say I felt great. So I'm going to skip a huge section of the race because a lot of this race is just me hanging out at the back until we skip ahead, and then I do my one thing that I finally did today. All right, so now we skipped way into the race. There's 20 minutes left, I guess, somewhere around there. So a couple of things with the weather. We got the weather right. I obviously nailed that. There was a wicked cell that came through after our race, but for our race, it was perfect. Weather was great. There was a little bit of a headwind. If you're looking at the course map in the upper right-hand corner, the headwind would be, you know what? I'm going to get this wrong because I just struggled to figure out that wind all day. I'm not even going to take a guess. Someone that raced in this race, please tell people what direction the wind was going across the start-finish line. I think it was going left to right across the screen, generally speaking. Yes, left to right across your screen. So, anyway. All right, a couple other things with racing day after day after day, like Tour of America's Dairyland. You do get into a rhythm. So recovery is really important, of course, eating, preparing for the next day, all that stuff. So it's funny how quickly you become a machine at coming home, doing these certain tasks, and then you're multitasking like crazy. You're cooking something and downloading a video and charging a battery and doing this and that and cleaning a bike, and everything's got just kind of these moments. So here's the moment where I actually did something. This is great. Something I learned from the video the other day, or I've learned in the past, is I see a mushrooming of the front group like that, and I get up there and I think, oh, I could jump to the front right now. And then I get scared because I'm like, well, I don't really want to be in the front. So watching enough videos of myself, and hopefully you learn along the way, when you are faced with that moment, absolutely go for it. Go up to the front, because by the time you get there, it's going to take you another 4 or 5 seconds to get up there. Somebody up at the front is going to get edgy, and they're going to take off. And that is exactly what happened. Here's these 3 guys got in front of me, and I'm able to slot in the third position. And this is wonderful for me. I'm really happy to be up sniffing the front of the race. It's a good confidence booster as I go into the next couple days of racing. And fun fact, the Masters category actually starts tomorrow. And I thought it was going to start 2 days from now. So now my teammate is up the road. There's a little 2-man move up the road, and my teammate is up there. So I am not going to pull through, despite these gentlemen asking very politely. But no, I will not do that. And that is my teammate up the road. So I am doing, I think, maybe I'm incorrect. I'm 99% sure my teammate was up the road. I can't remember how this moment played out, to be honest with you, now that I'm watching it in video life. Because I feel like I remember swinging. Maybe he leaves shortly, and then I go back up. Let's see if that's true. Yep, there goes my teammate. Okay, now it's all coming together. So there goes my teammate. I see him go past me, and I say, oh, okay, I'm going to move up to see if I can help him in any way. It gets a little interesting there, but so how I can help him is I can block the field, and when I say block, I mean just disrupt the flow of the field, not physically getting in anyone's way. That's very, very important. When people use the term blocking, I want to be very clear, if you've never raced, that you don't actually physically get in anyone's way. So this group slowed down, and then my teammate is up the road in this little 2-man move. So I'm going to go back to the front, and I'm going to do a little... Oh, there he goes. Never mind, I was wrong again. So now he's attacking again, and now I happened to be in the front of the group. That was not a planned thing, but I happened to be in the front of the group. So I'm going to hopefully, I'm going to reduce my watts shortly to try to slow down the field at a reasonable level. There you go, that's pretty low, and I'm taking a really wide turn, trying to keep things pretty low. I know, there we go. There, now I finally dropped the watts. And then I'm swinging back and forth, that's why the watts are jacking up. 0 watts, this is good. Just trying to lull the field into giving him a little bit of space. And I know there's strong riders that would love to bridge to them if they were able to make a move. Now, when it tightens up like that in the turn, I can take the race line, and other people, again, are having to be disrupted a little bit by me. So you can see I'm going 23, 24 miles an hour, like not obnoxiously slow, but reasonably reduced, I would say that. So there's my other teammate, Andy. So now we're both on the front of the field. That rider that went up the road is super strong, and so is that one. He ended up winning the race. And then by the time all those guys go, Andy goes because everybody else is going to go anyway, so we're going to just close the whole thing down. And the beauty of that move is that other people have to burn a match to close this up. So the Volgas rider, the white jersey that left first, he's bringing those 4 or 5 people. And here I am faced with another little bit of gap. And then the race leader goes by, or the series leader goes by me. Okay, now he has to burn a match to close that up. So all that actually was really good for our team. You know, these little micro movements really add up because you're taking a little bit out of other people's sails, and hopefully you're conserving for your own self if that's the case. So if you have a breakaway person on your team and they go up the road, it's great because you can relax. And if you are a sprinter, especially if you're a sprinter and you have somebody up the road, you can totally relax. You don't have to do anything. So anyway, little glimpse into team tactics. So a couple other things back to that thought about. So after that, then it's a lot of me just kind of hanging out in the back because I'm pretty gassed. 167 heart rate. If you watch my channel, I will tell you, or you will learn over time, that I have a very crazy low heart rate. So that is pretty maxed out for me. In fact, I set 2 all-time heart rate records on Training Peaks in this race, and I've been on Training Peaks for at least 8 years, 10 years. So to get 2 all-time records in one race, that's pretty wild. They were heart rate records. I think I got second all-time 20-minute and third all-time 60-minute or something like that. So this was a hard race for me. I know later on a lot of the riders were saying it was pretty mellow and pretty relaxed. So whatever. I guess they are more gifted than me. Okay, so I want to discuss one thing with this race. This is a huge part of me being able to get to the front and feel comfortable was a big change in my mental commitment to making racing, making myself competitive in the race. Now, this is not an awesome time to talk about it because I'm like dead last in this field at the moment while I'm trying to get some amount of rest, but that's what went through my head. If I had a job, and my job was to get to the front of the race and do something for a teammate or I got fired, I would figure out a way to do that, right, if I was a professional bike racer. So that's kind of the mindset that I set up. That's why I told Andy that he's the boss or Brent was the boss and they just need to tell me what to do today and maybe I will actually go do it. And I feel like that happened. So if you've been watching some of these races too, we have developed this little tradition to come home and think of 3 positives about the race on the way home. So my positives in this race was, 1, I mentally got my head together and raced a bike and felt like I contributed to a bike race instead of just hung on for dear life the entire time. So felt really good about that. Certainly physically felt fine, but that's not one of the positives. After the race, someone said that I looked skinnier than he had remembered in the past. Like, oh, that's like a podium. That's amazing. My fragile ego was assuaged by someone saying that I looked thinner this year. In reality, all I did was buy a medium skin suit instead of a large skin suit, and I feel like that is an optical illusion. But I think all that trainer road work in the winter paid off in a couple different ways. So anyway, happy about that. And then the other thing was, I think those were really the 2. I'm sure I had a third one, but those were really 2 of the positives, that I mentally committed to racing the bike, and I feel like I actually raced instead of hung on for dear life. So feel great about that. So one other thing I want to point out is that in these last couple of videos, or the early part of this week, 2 crashes made the thumbnail. And, crashing is certainly part of bicycling, but it's only a small part of bike racing. I want to be very clear that bike racing is 98% awesome, fun, fast, smooth, exhilarating, exciting, camaraderie. It is all those great things that are so hard to find as we get older. It's very difficult to find places like this where you can totally put yourself out there physically, even emotionally. Like if something crooked happens in the race and you kind of explode, like may not be your best self, but that's part of yourself. So I just love that about bike racing, and I just wanted to point out some of the positives. I also want to point out some positives for Tour of America's Dairyland. I think they do a fantastic job. They really do. They bring a very professional setting to the Midwest for bike racing. If you get the chance to come out here for Tour of America's Dairyland, I can guarantee you will not be disappointed in this race series. It is just fun. It is a good time. The carpooling down with your teammates, spending a couple of hours a day BSing about life in general and getting to know each other better and making lifelong friends through cycling, that's great. So I just want to be sure that if you're thinking about racing, I don't want you to be turned off by crashing, because that is such a small part of this whole experience. It really, really is. So there you go. Stay positive. I'm going to take one quick break, and I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Interesting. I had a fascinating conversation with this gentleman that's right in front of me right now and the cool down lap, and apparently he had spent some time racing in Belgium in kermesses and was just analyzing the complete and total difference between racing in the U.S. and these crit races and then racing in Belgium. Just really quickly, he pointed out in Belgium, seems like people would crash into these corners because they race on really, really tight roads. And crash, they just bunch up is what I mean by that. And then so everything slows down dramatically, and then after that there's a full out sprint to the next corner and then slow down and full out sprint to the next corner. He actually mentioned they very rarely crash because the guys they race so often that no one gets overly agitated. And then he was pointing out that in this group, everyone just wants to rail these corners, which is great, and that's awesome. I think it's wonderful. And you can see our group, we bunch up like this, and if you watch a pro group race through, I don't know that you really ever see that in a pro group. It's just there's always someone attacking off the front, attacking off the front, attacking off the front. So it is almost always strung out through and through. But in the Masters category that I'll be doing later in the week, there's plenty of this where and what I've noticed in my years of racing and watching these videos is that it seems to be somewhere around 10 to 13 minutes. We're well past that in this race, but when you start your first crit race, if you just want to mentally prepare to hang on for dear life for the first 13 minutes, if you can make it past that, I can almost guarantee you that there's going to be a dramatic rest point in the race where everybody just takes a little bit of a breather. There doesn't have to be, of course, but I have found that is typically the case. So if you can make it past those first 10 to 13 minutes, there's a really good chance that you'll finish the race. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about doing your first criterium race. And if you are thinking about doing your first criterium race, let me know what you're nervous about. Put it in comments. I'll do my best to give you my opinion on that type of concern. And we'll deal with these things and get you out on a race course, because that's what this channel is all about: growing our sport, growing our knowledge, and growing our fitness. So again, if you can subscribe, I'd appreciate it. So all right, we are getting somewhat near the end of this race, and in the end, I am too far off the back to understand, not off the back, but too far in the back to understand exactly what happened. But as I understand it from my two teammates who were up there in contention, there was a $100 preem at some point, and a gentleman that parked near us who has a team here from Montreal, really nice group. He was actually, one of his teammates was the person who had a crash that was in my video on day 3, Grafton. So we had a little laugh about that. He earned a t-shirt for being in the video. But his teammate won this race. Really powerful young man that has a lot of horsepower. So he went for the $100 preem, I think at lap 5, I want to say, and was able to stick a gap to the field. So that's pretty impressive. Because we were not going slow in these last few laps. So when I got down to lap 3, that's when I felt like, okay, I'm definitely going to finish the race. That's great, but I was definitely having a hard time. My wheels were coming off. So there was a little bit of a respite somewhere in between lap 2 and 1, actually, like one of those mushrooming moments, which was a little bit merciful for me. But I think that little hesitation from the group is what allowed the person from iBike in Montreal, the team I think is called iBike, to win. So good for him. And the series leader, I believe, got second, and his teammate got third, if I recall correctly. So series leader is just doing an incredible week. I think he's won at least 3 races, maybe even 4. No, 3 races. 3? Anyway, he's doing really good. Always in the top. So pretty impressive work by him and his 2 teammates from a few hours outside of our area. Awesome. So when I was taking that music break, there was a little bit of a gap, and so what I've noticed in the last few days, if you're on the back like I sadly am, it is harder. I hope that you have heard that advice, that sitting on the back of a group can be a lot harder than sitting within the group, and that is absolutely true. I have found that in my racing career, that if you are in the first third of the group, the speed and effort that you have to put in is much less than dangling on the back. All right. So now this turn was interesting. People got real upset about people taking the inside line on this turn, and I didn't see anything overly dangerous. This turn actually wasn't that bad, but you did have a fair amount of speed coming into it, but the consequences were fairly low. That curb was really low, so if you had to hop the curb, you could. There's a giant tree, but it had a pad in front of it, so if you hit that, it wouldn't maybe necessarily be the worst day of your life, but it'd be top 10. But it wasn't really that bad. So overall, I found the 2-3 category to be much safer than it is typically given credit for. I didn't have too many issues. Certainly not today. Now, this is a Monday, so a lot of folks are at work. I think our field was 44 people, and on the weekend it was like 63 people, somewhere in that neighborhood. So kind of a big difference to have 20 people out. Also, a quick comment on West Bend, Wisconsin. Really cool little downtown. I've never been to West Bend, Wisconsin, and super impressed by their downtown. Was able to walk around and enjoy it just a little bit, but it was fun. And I don't think I bought anything, sadly. I always try to do that when I go to a town is buy something to support the local economy, but I totally failed at that today, so sorry. But if you do go to a bike race, it's cool if you buy something from some sort of local shop that bothered to take time out of their day to open their doors and be friendly to cyclists. So definitely go out of your way to do that. I guess I bought a sandwich afterward for someone who was set up at the expo, so I felt like he took extra time out of his day to come set up for the little mini expo thing they had, and so I bought a sandwich, and it was good. Okay, we are definitely coming toward the end of the race. Yep. And there aren't a ton of really well-organized teams. I don't think any team has more than 3 people in it. I might be wrong. Velocause might have more. I'm not sure. But I'm not seeing in these races that someone just takes the last 2 laps by complete control. There's definitely been some of that, which is great because it keeps it much safer. So again, if you're newer to racing, when I say it keeps it safer, what I generally mean by that is it's straighter because it's faster. So anytime that the group is going fast, oh, there you can see 2 guys up the road. Anytime that the group is going fast, that means that it's probably going to be single file. That means that there's less competition when you're going through turns, so there's less chances of people smacking into each other left to right, and more chance of them being able to deviate in whatever line they want because it's just single file. When it gets slow, maybe this is the respite I was talking about. When it gets slow, that's where things get weird. I think this is the last lap. So this turn was really tight because it's kind of on a roundabout. And there was a crash on this next turn, which definitely slowed me down a hair. Not that I had any contention, but there's a crash right here on the right. Yep, there goes some poor soul. And that gave me a little bit of pause, but not so bad. I kind of got my act back together relatively quickly. Now, when you're back in this group, there's not a huge motivation to sprint, but I felt like I had a pretty good day, and I wanted to finish strong and see if I could manage any sort of power in this sprint. And it wasn't a full-on like, hey, I might win this bike race kind of a sprint, but I still wanted to give it a little bit of a dig, which is, you know, I'm 20, 30 guys back here. There's no real reason for me to sprint, but it's a huge road. There's plenty of room to do so, so I'm going to do it. So 1,000 watts, I think that's probably all that's going to happen there. Yeah, somewhere in this race, my max power was 1392, but I can't say that I recall a time when I felt like I gave 1392. Anyway, that's all I have. Thanks for watching the channel. Again, the goal on the channel, grow our sport, grow our knowledge, grow our fitness. I would massively appreciate your subscription and tell your riding buddy that they should watch Brian Davis races. That would be awesome too. So thanks. Thanks for doing that. You're a good person. People like you. If you share the channel, you'll be wealthy beyond your wildest dreams. Thanks.